right, and welcome to Fast Break Breakfast NBA Podcast. My name is Keith Parrish, and I'm joined once again by my buddy through the miracle of computer phone for season 10, episode 1. John Burr is here. How are you, John?
Is it really season 10?
We did.
I thought it was season 9. Ouch.
We're not 10 years old. The show's 9 years old.
We'll be 10 in January.
It's not how you. We'll be 10 next November or October.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of your son's age for some reason.
Yeah, my son's going to be 9.
I was saving this for a Chuck joke, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The Gators got me.
The Gators got you.
The Gators got
so
me.
Can we start? We can't start with Ja Morant. ESPN dropped another Ja Morant article. I am wearing a Ja Morant t-shirt in solidarity.
Okay, good, because that's my apology this week. Is
all right. Well, then we'll table that. We'll table this article, which you just mentioned with the Gator comment. We've been doing this for 9 full years because my son turns 9 in 2 weeks. We started this show in 2014. You, me, and Chuck, who left us only in the podcast realm. He's still alive and healthy. He no longer does basketball podcast. Doing well. More on that maybe at the end of the show. We're going to give you a state of the program at the end of the show. This is a big episode. I mean, yes, season 10 premiere. That's again 9 full years, and now this will be the 10th year. We're going to
truly the For the Love of the Game season 10.
Yeah, we are battered, bloodied, bruised, still here. We've gone through the podcast wars. We've gone through the employment wars. We've come to the other side without employment. And we are extremely independent once again. This episode is also a combining of multiple shows we used to do. We used to do the BUTTER PARKAY episodes. We kicked off our show, our very first show. We thought it was perfunctory to do an over-unders episode. Everyone does them now. This is a combining of those things because of our independent nature, because of vacations that I took, vacations that you took. It's now all wrapped into one. Maybe it'll be easier to understand. But I just got to say, John, happy to be here. For any new listeners, okay, I like to let people know just kind of who we are. I mean, Fast Break Breakfast, our mantra was we're a podcast for serious NBA fans. It's incredibly not serious. We like to speak to the people who we assume you're watching League Pass. We assume most of the players on every NBA roster, but also we like to have a good time. We want it to be appealing to those who do not have any idea who some of the players are. Also, by the way, I like to tell people just a little bit about ourselves. When we started this show, I tell people we were the kind of gentlemen who would be free in the afternoons to record a podcast. We were, John, what are you, troubadour?
I don't know.
You're like at some point I was a musician. You were a musician and a writer and an actor.
We were musicians on different parts of the journey of the gig economy, the musicianship. I no success whatsoever as a performer in a band, but I was a professional music theater accompanist and a classical music piano player, which people are always kind of surprised by if they don't know that. I would say I had just enough success to realize that success was better pursued on the other side of the music business than the performance side.
Right. And so we started this show 10 years ago where my wife and I were having a kid, and I'm like, I can't do gigs anymore because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense to hire childcare to do a 2-hour piano gig. There's no profit here. This is a nightmare. It's too hard. So I'm like, I need something to do. John, you and I had been buddies. We'd been texting about the NBA. We were basically pen pals about the NBA.
Yes.
We didn't hang out.
Started, I had no NBA friends other than you and Chuck, and I would use that term friends very loosely.
Yeah.
You and I had only watched games together, I think once, and then Chuck I had really just become friends with. Chuck was a completely different person when I met him and when the show started than by the time it ended. Chuck's going to be a therapist soon.
Right. So we're all very different 9 years later. Obviously, there's a lot more children in our lives.
you're basically a mogul now, as far as I'm concerned. Your business has gone places. It's doing well. But we do get together to talk about basketball. It is themed after breakfast.
We might be addicted to it.
A little bit addicted. Yeah.
I will say I treated last night and the research and the making of spreadsheets like a secret cocaine habit. Like, went to bed early with the wife, or I don't have a wife, but girlfriend and
common law.
kid.
It's been it's been forever.
And set a buzzing alarm, not an alarm that would buzz, just in case I fell asleep, to get out of bed and do this.
We got to prep. The listeners demand a certain level of accuracy. Many of them depend financially on the things we say, and we don't want to let them down. It's been a rocky road a few years, but I will say our over-under predictions, still the communal knowledge.
I don't know if they'll be as good without Chuck's.
That's what we say every year.
Layman terms.
So this year we've actually done a little bit of a twist where we've actually asked for our Patreon supporters to make their picks. So when we do our over-unders, when we do our butter or parquet assessments of every team in the Eastern Conference's offseason, John's going to give his opinion and his prediction. I'm going to give my opinion and my prediction. And then we're going to get the community's answers. And that'll be like kind of our third entry. By the way, this idea was from Power listener and supporter Mitchell Buchanan. Thank you, Mitchell. It's a great idea. So we will have the opportunity for unanimous picks, unanimous 3-person picks by using the communal knowledge of our elite supporters. And by the way, speaking of our elite supporters, I do need to recognize and thank our newest Patreon supporters. Jared Kaiser, Eric Madigan, M. Freeman, David Knack. Thanks for joining the fold of Patreon supporters at patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. Also, Eli Mulvey increased his pledge. Texie Mista stepped up. Thank you, Texie Mista. Increased the pledge. Apologies if you have done something with our Patreon in the last couple of weeks and I've missed you there. That, by the way, very important. Support this program as we go forward. Patreon is one of our main reasons, honestly, for doing it. We love our community. We're excited about the community we've built. Love talking basketball in the Slack. And you guys are the ones, the footprints on the beach right now. That's when the Patreon supporters carried us. That's where we are right now. So thanks to everyone who does that. If you want to support us, again, patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. You can play fantasy basketball with us if you join at the $5 a month mark. You get a bonus episode every month of you and me and John talking. Again, patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. By the way, patrons, if you haven't filled out your fantasy basketball forms, you need to. We're actually John's drafting on Sunday. The Negative Fantasy League is on Sunday. Lots of people have signed up, but fewer than previous seasons. So hopefully, because I haven't done a show in like 10 days, maybe that was a reason the signups have been down. I'm worried the message hasn't gotten out there. So go to patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast, find the fantasy basketball post, fill it out. We want to get everybody in a fantasy league with us who wants to play fantasy basketball. All right, John, we got to get the show moving. Get to our segments, get to our over-unders, our butter parquets. But before we do it, of course, we start every show with breakfast. John, what was your breakfast?
So today I have skipped breakfast because we were trying to get this going as quickly as possible. But yesterday,
thank you.
I had Cracker Barrel.
Oh,
and they may have gotten rid of Uncle Herschel's breakfast, but I forgive them because I had their pancakes for the first time. I don't know how I'd never had Cracker Barrel pancakes.
Yeah,
but holy moly, the buttery crust upon that mass-produced mound of whatever. Wow, really top notch. One of the best pancakes I've ever had.
Here's a deep cut name drop with no name included. The artist who has designed the newest Cracker Barrel menus, which are out right now.
Yes.
Big Grizzlies fan. Go Grizz.
She was referenced as I was eating with power listener Eric Wilson.
Oh, shout out power listener Eric Wilson. We don't mind dropping the supporters' names. We appreciate all of you. My breakfast. I'm going to tell you about some breakfast I had on a trip. So we were at the beach last week. And this isn't even my breakfast. This is my 6-year-old's breakfast. We were going to all these different. Basically, we're at this little kind of vaguely remote beach in North Carolina, but it has like those.
Folly? Was it Folly?
No, it's called New Holden Beach. It's like an hour from.
I stalked my meet cute is Holden Beach. I stalked the mother of my child to Holden Beach one time.
Oh, nice.
Pretty weird.
It's pretty fun to
found out where she vacationed and showed up. I'm pretty sure I'd be jailed for that now. But
Yeah,
in the old days,
you can't.
That was romance.
Well, that's back in the. That's like watching. This is one of the new things. Like watching an old romantic comedy.
Mhm.
It's all about persistence, and now that's not okay.
Yeah,
dude,
yeah.
that lady said no 6 times.
Yeah.
You have now you got to stop, and it's really weird. Where it's like, well, I thought this was courting. This is what old literature.
It was chivalry at the time.
Yeah, it was chivalry. Where it's like, I've now sent you. I feel like Succession covered this, where it's like, oh, I sent you a frozen pint of my blood because I care for you. It's like, that's not. That honestly might have flown in the 19th century. Not okay anymore. No, New Holden Beach or Holden Beach, whatever it's called. It's just like. It has those like 4 or 5 restaurants where they're all kind of the same, basically anywhere on the coast, where it's like the fried food restaurants. And so we're basically always going to these places, and it's kind of like Disney World prices, where it's like,
outrageous.
why is this meal $30? This would cost $30 at Disney World. I can get better seafood in Nashville for less.
At least call it the Admiral's platter if you're going to charge me this much.
I do love an Admiral's platter. But it was with the kids. So my kids are not super adventurous eaters. My son ate a hamburger at every joint, which is fine. Like kids meal hamburger, it was fine. We're like, what's your favorite meal you had this week? He's like, the hamburger at this place. And there was one disaster where he ordered a kids meal hamburger and it came with honey mustard. John, your kid's not old enough yet to order hamburgers, but I will say,
No.
Kids menu hamburgers. Honestly, I'll say any hamburger. If that thing is being presented with honey mustard, that needs to be in the description.
I think that's like basically proof that the restaurant's a front for something else.
Yeah, I was like,
they did not study their fake.
You can't on an adult menu, I think, sneak in honey mustard without warning someone. Like, what is
ground beef and honey mustard? That's like DeJounte Murray and Trey. You know, they just shouldn't be on the same team.
Way to force that reference in. I love it. No, but like the one food success that was breakfast themed was it was a challenge getting the 6-year-old who just turned 6 to eat. But one restaurant had chicken and waffles, and we ordered chicken and waffles off the adult menu, and my 6-year-old was housing $17 chicken and waffles. We went back and got them just because she ate them so well. Wildly overpriced. It was one of the least appetizing chicken and waffles I've ever seen, but in lieu of an actual breakfast, that is what I can regale the listeners with. Vacation breakfast / dinner / $17 expensive chicken and waffles for the 6-year-old. Anyways, those were our breakfasts. After our breakfasts, we move on to our breakfast in bed apologies. This is our chance to make right what we might have gotten wrong on a previous episode. It's frequently the first time we talk about basketball. Honestly, I can basically apologize for not having a real breakfast today. I think ours might be similar. Instead of breakfast, I was reading an ESPN article about our Ja Morant. Did you want to cover this in your apology, John? What would you like to say?
I guess it's an apology to everyone for the entirety of the season, because I am like Patty Hearst, held at literal gunpoint this time, where I have just settled into a completely defensive stance, a Marcus Smart level defensive stance on Ja Morant's suspension. Have decided it's unfair. I don't care. I think he should be playing, and I'm just going to get it out of the way that all of that I am. But my homerism has taken over my mind, and a sea of Miles Bridges type incidents. I no longer care about Ja Morant's Instagram live posturing, and I'm going to be on his side until he comes back, and I'm going to be counting the moments. Does this have to do with the Grizzlies replacing him with my least favorite player in the NBA? Perhaps, but instead I'm going to make it a question of moral ground and secret racism and a profound cultural dissonance. And try to take the high ground, but it's really mostly about Marcus Smart.
So this is funny. So longtime listeners or newer listeners should know, quite comically, Marcus Smart has been your least favorite player forever, going back to college.
College, yes.
Yeah. So it's pretty funny that the Grizzlies got him.
This just keeps happening. Grayson Allen is probably my other least favorite player.
Do you have any comments on Grayson Allen going gray? He's gone gray this summer.
which is
really.
I mean, he's young, but like
One
he's always
step
looked old.
closer to full
and now,
Ted Cruz.
yeah, he's going
embodiment.
full Cruz. So like you mentioned, like the secret racism of that felt like this new article.
Like Spencer Hawes can flash his gats on Instagram Live.
I'm not even going to compare the actual actions of Ja Morant. Like,
yeah, right.
This new article on ESPN, which has no new information other than having team sources. Like it names a lot of team sources and business owners, but like this article, which by the way is called something about, and then the alligators got him, which is the pull quote, which you referenced at the beginning. It basically blames rap music, and like it uses the word humble like 6 times. Maybe it was fewer, but like this entire article feels like David Stern wrote it. It talks about the way he dresses. It talks about like, it starts off with this like story of his first Instagram where he's like these kids on vacation are drinking tequila. And that's the first like.
Yeah, I feel like we're back to the Allen Iverson dress code thing all over again. I'm just really uncomfortable with it, and I'm just preparing everyone. I'm going to be defiantly.
Yeah, so like I guess I'm being a homer, but like I'm a white guy with no tattoos who does not listen to music, who actually is probably actively bothered by rap music. Like I'm like I don't like it at all. And I read this article being like, this makes me uncomfortable. Like talking about like, oh yeah, he put that stuff in his teeth. He got a grill and it was all downhill from there. And it's like, that's an unsourced quote. Like that's funny. Also, by the way, this big quote, John, where he went to his first All-Star game and then the alligators got him. Have you ever heard that? Is that an idiom? Do people say this?
This is like when Phil Jackson referred to people as posses, and I found out something was racist that I didn't know was racist until this moment.
One team source, this is quoted on ESPN. One team source said he went to that first All-Star game and then the alligators got him. I've never heard anyone say that. Do you, if we put on our, like, if we want to figure out who the team source is, if we want to put on like our Columbo trench coat and figure it out.
So I think it's Steven Adams because of the use of, he would have said crocodile. Never mind. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, if we go back to our Columbo, this is basically find out the one person in your life you've ever heard say this sentence. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, that one guy says then the alligators got him a lot. It's like, it's not like a very common phrase that was used. So it's a weird article. I mean, again, it re-highlights all the things that legitimately, like Ja did some dumb stuff, and like the team feels his suspension was warranted and okay, and it seems like whatever. All right.
When Ja Morant finds this source right before he blows him away, he's going to be like, "It was a nice piece of work, but you shouldn't have signed it, Gator man."
I mean, the article basically says like once he got a lot of money, he started drinking. He didn't drink before he was in the NBA. He was 19 before he was in the NBA.
Correct.
And it's like, oh, once he got money, he started going to clubs. Okay. Back when he was in high school, he wasn't doing this, drinking and going out to clubs. Well, good. Like what? That's a normal progression.
He couldn't get in.
Again, I don't want to defend what I don't know. I don't know what he did, but this article again feels like it was ghostwritten by David Stern, being like, there's a thing where like, hey,
maybe Rudyard Kipling.
Yeah, the Grizzlies got rid of rap music at pregame shoot around because of Ja Morant's behavior. It's like, I don't think, hey, Tipper Gore, I'm not sure it's the rap music. I don't know. Anyways, here's my apology.
We'll move on from our disturbing homerism. I know it's actually offensive to some people, and they probably have good points, but we're stuck this way.
My apology. Last episode, I misspoke. I said Tumani Kamara's name incorrectly. I got some.
Armina Barana?
I got some of the consonants wrong. I believe I said Tumari Kamana, not Tumani Kamara. And of course, that's a name I need to learn because podcasters of our ilk, I believe, have declared him the secret winner
of the DeAndre Ayton trade. He's like the piece that's really going to flash for the Trailblazers. And
he was drafted in my fantasy league, which has far too many Blazers players.
Was this the 32 team international Stackhouse of Pancakes negative fantasy league?
I know.
We go a little deep. When you draft 200 players, some funny guys get drafted.
I probably will draft Carmina Burana in our negative fantasy league.
Well, don't make fun of his name, John. Look at you being all ESPN criticizing.
I like to make fun of people's names.
Yeah, I know. It's all right.
I have a stupid name. Particularly my middle name's very stupid.
Yeah,
I think names should be we can make fun of names, right?
All right, that's fair.
Because you can change your name if it's really bothering you. You can change your name to Bison Deli.
Oh no, let's move on. Those were our breakfast in bed apologies. Before we get to our steak and eggs best things, before we get to our butter parquet / over unders, just got to tell you, once again, reemphasizing, if you want to play fantasy basketball, the deadline to sign up is Saturday. Play fantasy basketball with us, that is. Do that at patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. Also support the show. Join the Slack channel. Get bonus episodes. Keep this thing going. If you have any questions about fantasy basketball or the Patreon, feel free to reach out. Also, check out Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is a unique way to play fantasy sports for money. I was actually in a state in North Carolina where I was allowed to do those higher or lower picks. A lot of fun watching Thursday Night Football with those higher or lower picks. If you're a new user and you use the link in this episode's description, or if you use that promo code FBBF, that's FBBF as in Fast Break Breakfast, Underdog Fantasy will match your opening deposit up to $500. So you basically come out ahead just by signing up. And this is totally legal in, I think, every state, some like 48 states. So if you want to play fantasy sports for a little bit of cash, you want to get involved with the daily fantasy once the NBA season starts, highly recommend Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code FBBF. All right, John, steak and eggs, best thing. And I believe when we started the show, I believe we considered naming this the Uncle Herschel's best thing. R.I.P. to a legend. No more Uncle Herschel's at Cracker Barrel. But John, what's your steak and eggs best thing?
Do you think they were cute? Like, is this Herschel Walker related? Like, why
I think Uncle Herschel got canceled.
Wow.
I think there's no question. No, what's your best thing, John, from the last couple of weeks?
For me, it's pretty simple. I basically had kind of forgotten just the joys of a pure snake draft. I've been such an auction guy for so long in fantasy sports that being able to do a snake draft, is this me just settling into my old age and becoming basic?
Yeah, maybe.
Because I was just like, just being able to kind of set it and forget it and click when it was my turn around.
Well, I think this leads into our advanced age and all the different plates we have to keep spinning in our lives, all the balls we have in the air, to throw some more metaphors out there. I think having a snake draft is relaxing. You're like, I don't have to, I can just kind of let this wash over me. Oh, Bradley Beal's here. Yes, sure. I'll take him. So yeah, I do think
that literally happened to me.
I know you sent me your team. They seem very strong. But like, I do think it's like, it's one less thing to do. Like right now I'm like, I have 3 fantasy drafts.
Don't get me wrong. I will be spending 19 hours on Sunday drafting an International Stackhouse of Pancakes negative fantasy league and then my auction league. But just doing a regular snake draft, it's
relaxing. No, I've got 2 auctions coming up in the next 5 days. I'm very nervous. Very nervous. Here's my best thing. Very much basketball related. Very much related to one of the main antagonists / protagonists of this show. One of the great anti-heroes of the NBA, Dillon Brooks, who was ejected 5 minutes into his first stint on the Houston Rockets. And it's not just that he got ejected 5 minutes. Statement game.
Shot.
He came out and he did another nut shot. I believe this is his 3rd nut shot ejection in his career, which honestly, that's way more than Chris Paul has. I mean, what's going on here? I guess new NBA. This way it's regulated now, but I'm not just thrilled that he committed a nut shot. I went back to watch it. I found out several things. I thought several things about this, or I noticed things. One, I didn't know he had a new number. Dillon Brooks, number 9 in Houston. Congratulations, Dillon.
The
Also,
next Mamba.
he didn't just commit this like flagrant foul punching of Daniel Tice, or whacking of Daniel Tice. He, seconds before it, committed another dirty play where he ran into Daniel Tice on it like a dead ball where they're doing the inbounds play. And so that was a free throw. I'm watching this replay and I'm like, oh, was that the ejection? I didn't see the nut shot. I'm like, where's the nut? I backed it up like 4 times. I'm like, oh, I didn't really see it. That was sneaky. They must have really found it. And then I kept watching. I'm like, oh, it hasn't even happened yet. That was a different play. So he does these 2 dirty fouls on Daniel Tice in like just real actual time in less than 1 minute, gets ejected. And my best thing is not actually specifically that he got ejected. It's that he did this as retaliation for Daniel Tice and Germany stomping through the FIBA World Cup. And I think Dillon was just taking a measure of revenge and avenging the honor of the Canadian team and even the U.S. national team and the whole world who lost to Daniel Tice in Germany. So good job, Dillon. Kudos to you. All right. Now,
this
John.
is such a perfect way this is Stone Cold Dillon Brooks at his greatest. This is the glass breaking. This is him entering the ring with a chair.
This is
and
when
you know
knew...
how Stone Cold Steve Austin finished his opponents with a swift hit to the jewels, followed by the Stone Cold Stunner.
Yeah.
Hitting and beautiful.
I think it also was a sign that the writer's strike had ended, and we had more very good scripted content. Those were our best things. The opposite of our best thing is our cream of wheat worst thing. Have you seen anything that made you unhappy, John? Or what's the worst thing you've seen in the last couple of weeks?
Essentially, for me, the worst thing is trying to figure out if I have NBA TV, if this is a special offer. Have I paid for NBA League Pass yet? Is this a special offer? How much money do I dedicate for the NBA TV, NBA League Pass combo? Who can I get a login from? Can I share my login this year? Does NBA League Pass work this year? What teams are offered on NBA League Pass? It's just an exhausting, never-ending yearly conundrum that I can't really ever go a season without whining about. I know we're probably tired of talking about League Pass and its sundry offenses, but it just really blows my mind.
I do think that NBA TV is included with regular League Pass this year, but I also don't know. I also know lots of fan bases are struggling with the collapse of the regional sports networks. Bally Sports has dropped the ball on a few places. Various cable providers have also stopped carrying the regional sports networks that carry the local teams, like the Trailblazers, are having issues. I know the Jazz and the Suns are offering direct-to-consumer products. The Bally Sports direct-to-consumer product is very hit or miss, I hear. I pay for League Pass. I still pay for cable, and it's just an overwhelming bill every month. I do know if you're on the fence about League Pass, I can tell you, for those of you who watch the things we do during games on playback this year, you have to have League Pass. There's no more validation of having YouTube TV or Comcast. Playback is entering a partnership with the NBA. Thus, it's going to be playback only or League Pass only. So like, I support getting League Pass. It isn't that expensive, honestly. I still think that they've kept the price down. I'm not getting paid for this plug, by the way. League Pass for me has worked fine. It has things I wish were different, but like it's worked fine. And they do keep, in my mind, lowering the rate as they try to build their user base going into the next CBA negotiations. Part of that, by the way, could be the other, it could maybe be my worst thing ahead of these, not CBA negotiations, the television rights negotiations, ahead of the television rights negotiations, that they want to add a bunch of users on League Pass. They also apparently, keep trying to get players to play in the regular season. And this was highlighted by Joe Dumars for the league office coming out.
Voice, mouthpiece for the whole
seemed
movement.
like he was being a mouthpiece for the league. Comes out and says, we have a study that says load management does not work. It's been disproven. And it's like, teams are like, could we see that study? Yeah. Oh, it's on my desk. It's back in the, I didn't bring it. I don't have it on me. But our doctors have said load management doesn't work. I mean, I'm sitting here as someone who, one of my passion one of my passion projects for the NBA is to stop rewarding losing. And it's comical to me. It's like, oh, you want to make the regular season better? How about you stop incentivizing losing? How about you stop rewarding teams who lose basketball games? I don't know. Maybe that'll work better than the in-season tournament.
I think we need to go to a pennant system where the winner of the Western Conference faces the winner of the Eastern Conference in a 72-game series to determine the NBA champion of the world.
Yeah. Here's my actual worst thing. I was watching a preseason basketball game, John. And
Sounds bad.
It featured honestly, the preseason games I've watched this year, which is never as many as I wish I could. They've been fantastic. They've been maybe I'm so starved for basketball. I thought they were amazing. This game particularly was amazing. It was the Thunder and the Spurs playing. It was Chet Holmgren against Victor Wembanyama.
I mean, that was the greatest preseason game of all time.
So. Unbelievably good. But no, but Wembanyama, this is my worst thing. That dunk that he had on Thomas Bryant, where Thomas Bryant looked just like he'd seen a ghost.
Are you referring to Thomas Bryant's Tyronn Lue moment, where we will be seeing that for the rest of his career, and that's what he'll be remembered for?
My worst thing is that Victor dunked it from outside the charge circle. And I don't mean he jumped from outside the charge circle. And this was pointed out by Dragonfly Jones on Twitter. He didn't jump from outside the charge circle. He never went into the charge circle. He remained outside of the charge circle the entire time. He was standing outside of the charge circle, dunked it, and his feet never went inside the charge circle. That is messed up. That's not okay. I'm on Thomas Bryant's side. I'm on the people who think Ja Morant should dress more
conservatively,
and should be a little more humble, and also it should be illegal when Lou Alcindor dunks.
Right.
I think maybe we need to change some rules.
Yeah, let's go back I think
Wembanyama should not be allowed to gather step. I saw him catch a pass on a fast break. He did the gather and then 2 steps. He covered too much ground.
Yes,
I don't think that's okay.
Victor Wembanyama, in my aforementioned snake draft, Victor Wembanyama went in the first round, and I said, you know what? Fine.
What are you gonna do?
Fair enough. You want to have fun with the most fun player?
Fantasy basketball's fun. Keep your fun players. No, also speaking of the chart, so all right, if one of your players can dunk the basketball without going inside the charge circle, guess what? It needs to be moved back. Or it needs to be moved out. Also, Brandon Miller had an unbelievable breakaway dunk. He completed the dunk cleanly, but was called for an offensive foul because Daniel Gafford stood up and took a charge. If the players in the NBA can dunk it from outside the charge circle, we gotta move it back.
This should have been your apology. This is going to be an 82-game war on charges this year, I think.
Charges are immoral. The officials get them wrong and it leads to injuries. What's the point of it? Anyways, those were
in our world, you can use laser sights in a public place, but you cannot take a charge. All right.
Those are, it's just saying, freedom, liberty.
Bare arms.
Anyways, those were our worst
bare
things.
Arm shirt. It would sell, I'm afraid.
And now, John, it is time to do
at long last
our Butter Parkay over under preview. So the way it used to work was we would do an episode where we just asked the very simple question: did this team improve? Because every team outside of maybe like 1 or 2 tanking teams every year spends the offseason thinking they got better, which we were calling butter. Better equals butter. So teams would always assume, listen, we got better. Fan bases would say, oh yeah, we got this player. We got, this guy's going to get better. So every year, basically every team thinks they got butter. So our job is to look at the transactions and determine if we think this team did in fact get butter. And John has stepped away for the playback. I will wait 1 second.
Not only did I need to let the housekeeping crew in, I also needed to make sure I didn't understand these rules ever for the rest of the history of the podcast.
I stopped explaining them briefly after you stepped away.
Sorry.
That's fine.
No one else is here, and they were at the door.
And so the standard we use for whether or not a team got better / butter is we look at the team at the end of last season. We say, what if that team was totally healthy? This is not like a pre-trade deadline. We look at all the players who finished the year on the team, and we just kind of look at the rosters and say, all right, is that team butter or not butter? Not butter, if you were born before 1980, means parquet, which is a imitation spread that people would use. And this was always very confusing, specifically for John sometimes, when I would say, we're not talking about win totals here. We're not saying, will the Hawks win more games than they won last year? We're saying, will this year's Hawks team beat last year's Hawks team in a game? And it was always very, very confusing. Now this year,
why didn't you say that?
I said it every single. I said it 9. This is the 10th time I've said it. Maybe 9th time.
I've got it now. All I needed to do was I needed to create a battle through time and space to understand.
Now, some of them get confusing. Like, we're going to get like the Sixers. We don't know how to assess James Harden. We're like, oh, he's on both teams. Maybe he's not on this year's team. So they do get confusing, and there is some leeway. But this year, we're also going to do our overs and unders. And there, everyone knows over and unders. We're going to pick either higher or lower based on what Vegas has projected. It used to be, I said what I thought the team would win, and then John would reveal to me what the Vegas total was. That is not really how we can do it anymore. They are everywhere. You cannot get away from the over under totals. They are all over the place. So there's no mystery around them anymore. But without further ado, we're going to go team by team alphabetically in the Eastern Conference. We're going to say whether we think the team got better or worse, which is parquet. And then we're going to say whether they're going to go over or under their win totals. And also, more preamble, apologies. We've been pretty good at picking overs and unders on our show. Last year, John, by the way, here's our stats. By the way, I do terribly every year at the Eastern Conference. You should not listen to anything I say about the Eastern Conference. Every single season, my Western Conference record is astoundingly good. My Eastern Conference record is so bad. Last year I was 7-8 in the East.
You are truly the West Coast elite.
10-5 in the West, and 3 of my losses by a half game. It's a tricky thing in the West. Anyways, that made my total last year. I was 17-13 picking over unders. John, you had a great bounce back year. You were 20-10 over unders last year. Chuck, who has moved on from basketball podcasting, 13-17, which is by far Chuck's worst year ever. The all-time standings.
New narrative. Saw his results, knew it was time to hang it up.
The all-time standings.
San Marino, Jacksonville Jaguars.
I'm going to add these up live. I am 149, 112, and 3, which is a 57.1% win percentage, which honestly, not that great. Not that great. Yeah, you're basically paying the VIG. You're not doing super well. John, you, by manner of winning 20 picks last season as opposed to Chuck's 13, have tied Chuck for the all-time lead in correct answers. And actually, because of 1 year where we couldn't determine what Chuck actually predicted, you can go back and listen to the tape. Season 1, it's still available. It's not behind a paywall. You try to figure out if he went higher or lower on some of these, or over under on some of these picks. So technically, Chuck has a better win percentage because he's 154
going out on top.
He went out on top.
The master of all games of scones.
His final win percentage, he was 154, 105, and 3, which is a winning percentage of 59.5%. And then John, you were 154, 107, and 3, which is just a few percentage points worse than that. But here,
the house always wins.
Nobody
got to that magical 62%.
We also always give you our results because other podcasts maybe don't. There's no accountability. But what we say is you don't look at our individual numbers. You look at our group numbers. And over the years, we've been great. Last year, when 2/3 of us agreed on a pick, we were 17-13. Historically, when 2/3 of us have agreed on the pick, this is where the money is made. We are 168, 102, and 3. That is a 62.2% win percentage, which is great. And we're now making money. Even better, when we are unanimous, when you, me, and Chuck were unanimous. Also, this year it's going to be when you, me, and hopefully our smart Patreon supporters are unanimous. Over the years, when we are unanimous, we have a 68% win percentage, 78, 37, and 2. So don't listen to what I say. Maybe don't listen to what John says, but probably more listen to what John says. But when you put it all together, that's where the money is made. All right, so now here we go. The Atlanta Hawks, John. The Atlanta Hawks did not do a ton in the offseason. They salary dumped John Collins and drafted Kobe Buffkin and got Garrison Matthews, Wes Matthews, different spelling, and Patty Mills. To you, is this team butter or not butter parquet?
So I feel like you left out the chapstick addicted elephant in the room.
A full season of Quinn Snyder and the full off season of Quinn Snyder. Okay.
Which I guess to my mind, this is a statement on a philosophy.
Okay.
I do not really care about Quinn Snyder getting a full season. I do think perhaps John Collins is addition by subtraction. However, because I can't
last year. Sorry.
Because I can't point to any qualitative. So let's look at this over. We're not doing the over under yet. So
well, you can't. No. I just let's. I'd say quickly. Okay. Do you think they got butter?
No.
Yeah, I would say they're basically the same.
Yes.
Talent wise, and I'm not going to bake in a full training camp of Quinn Snyder. I'm going to say not butter. By the way, our listeners. Oh, I got to pull up the listeners. Why don't you, Phil, while I pull up this listener thing?
Can I talk about the actual number?
So talk about the actual number. Yeah.
So the number is 42.5, which to me is like almost like it's like they're taunting us, because even despite these years where the Hawks went to the conference finals, etc., I think they only won like 43 or 44 games. So you're asking me to declare, just because Quinn Snyder is there, this to be the best Hawks team in recent memory. And I'm just not prepared to do this. I don't think you can I'll always believe the Hawks players and general managers that it has been the coach's fault 2-3 consecutive coaches in a row. I don't hail Quinn Snyder as some sort of savior. I think he's a fine coach, but I don't think coaches are worth all that many wins in the NBA. And I don't think Quinn Snyder has shown an ability to keep disgruntled players happy, which is, I think we may have some misanthropes in our midst in Atlanta. I follow the Hawks pretty closely. I think the Hawks are kind of the same-ish. So to me, that's like an under and a parquet. All
right. So our listeners replied with 73% of them.
Over, I'm sure.
No. Well, 70% said they did not get better.
Oh, okay.
So we all agree they did not get better. However, I think they're going to have a pretty solid season. I put them at 44 wins.
That's the best Hawks season like ever. With this era of Hawks.
So
Hawks.
I do feel like they're an over 500 team. Some of this is going to be because I don't feel like I think there's going to be teams that win fewer games this year. And also I just think they're flat out better. When I look at the whole Eastern Conference, I think they're better than half of them. They're like right in the middle. And I think winning 43 seems possible. So I will go over. You're going under. Our listeners, 61% have taken the over. So there we go.
I think this is going to be a very fashionable over pick. And I think people just have not paid attention to the Hawks always win around 40 games.
They're not starting this year with Nate McMillan.
I don't think that's going to fix that. The Murray Young fit is odd. And that they don't, to me, like, I just think the Hawks are the Hawks. And I don't think anything they did is some sort of thing that's going to carry them to some new echelon, which 44 wins would be. That would be their best year with this team. And I don't know if this is their best team. And I also think they didn't do enough to factor out what I think will be a much better division for them.
Okay.
I think you're not going to have
I love it when we go division.
An unbelievably poor year for the Hornets and teams like that. So I think they can,
spoiler.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking around. All right. So let's go to the next team, which is the Boston Celtics, which I think should be a quick one. They did do a lot of stuff. Credit for them doing.
They've transformational offseason.
Yeah. So they got rid of Marcus Smart. They got rid of Malcolm Brogdon. They got rid of Time Lord. They got rid of Grant Williams. All talented kind of, and also I would say like formative to the culture players, but also maybe they all rubbed Joe Mazzulla the wrong way.
I was about to say formative to a past culture, a previous.
Okay. Culture. And so they brought in Drew Holiday. They brought in Kristaps Porzingis. Those are the most notable signings. Although they did bring in Delano Banton, who's fun to watch play basketball.
Yes. Raptors legend.
Yeah. I think this team I think the additions are butter. I just think,
yes.
And so our listeners also agreed that they're butter. It's not without risk, but we can, I think, safely say yes, butter. Listeners are agreeing they are butter. 82% of responders say butter. And I picked them to win. Now, when we talk about the actual win total, I picked the Celtics to be number one in the East at 55 wins. And
that's going to depend on the book.
Yeah. And the one we asked our listeners to do was 54.5 wins. So I am the narrowest of overs and I hate it. But I think, I don't know. I don't ever like to bet the high overs, like I'm probably not going to put I'm definitely not going to put any real money on this, but I guess I'll stick with my process and say over on the Celtics. What do you think? What do you feel about that number, which is quite high? And that is the highest number in the East, right? Or the whole league.
I think perhaps the Bucks is higher.
Yeah,
I would say, which I have, it's an over for me. I think we talk about them losing some guys who are formative or like culture guys, but honestly, they lost them during the season last year. Derek White took that job, which is why I was so miserable about paying a first-round pick for a guy who lost his job. Grant Williams didn't get along with Joe Mazzulla. I know we make fun of Joe Mazzulla a lot, and perhaps we should for X's and O's reasons, but if that last year is a bad year of coaching, I'd like to see what a good year of coaching looks like from Joe Mazzulla, or even an average year of coaching looks like from Joe Mazzulla, because I'll take that bad year of coaching. I also think, they added a lot to their coaching staff. I think last year he had no coaching staff. They were all on other teams. If you look at, we talk about Ime Udoka in glowing terms for some reason. Joe Mazzulla did what Ime Udoka did as far as wins and losses in his first year.
Yeah.
So what is going on here? And then they added a guy in Porzingis coming off of his best year. They obviously wanted someone to shoot threes. He can shoot threes. They're moving him away from the basket, which is where he sucks. Time Lord, to me, watching him, was broken. That is an injured player.
Yeah.
With maybe a serious lingering injury issue, or at least plays injured now. And then they added maybe the best playoff defensive performer, who's not Marcus Smart. They kind of upgraded at what they lost. So I don't know. I just really like their offseason. I really like that they took a good situation and didn't stand pat and we're like, no, we're going to completely change this up and take a swing. I think when you stand pat is when you get left behind. I also think this is a move that says, all right, this is Mazzulla and Tatum and Brown's team, and we're not going to have loud guys like Grant Williams and Marcus Smart, who are kind of like the Dillon Brooks culture guys. They kind of excised them. So I think this could be a major, I think this will be maybe, if not the best regular season team and a title threat, then at the very least, a top 3 Eastern Conference team, which even if that easily, say if they have growing pains with this new roster, right, and they don't win as many games, I think by the time you get to the playoffs, you've had the time to figure out what you are here.
Yeah. I agree with you. I this is the team I've given the most wins to in my predictions. I just think they're gonna. I mean, all the things you said, all the good players they have, and then they just have weirdos who just drain threes. And this team legitimately shoots so many threes, and they're gonna make so many threes. And pairing that with that elite talent, like maybe I am overly swayed by Sam Hauser making 2 of the most gorgeous threes I ever saw in a preseason game against the Sixers.
Sam Hauser's gonna play meaningful minutes.
He's just gonna. All he has to do is drill threes. And like they dropped, I think that they dropped 23 on Tuesday night, and it's like that's they did it last year. They hit threes. They're going to be great.
Talk about getting overselling preseason. If you watched the Celtics last night, they look so awesome.
Patreon supporters, by the narrowest of margins, have picked the over for the Celtics. Okay. So we're saying we're unanimous on over. All right, next up is. It's our next team here alphabetically, the Brooklyn Nets, who got back Ben Simmons. They lost Seth Curry, and
Seth Curry back on the Mavs. What is happening?
And they didn't.
That kid is back on the escalator.
I mean, I'm not even like. What did they do this offseason? Just Dennis Smith? Is that all we're saying?
I mean, a lot of teams did nothing.
Yeah, they sat on their hands from a team that was pretty, honestly, not good once they acquired all my favorite players. Did they get butter? I'm saying no. They did not get butter, not butter. They're parquet.
An obvious parquet.
All right. And are you?
And Vegas has them at 37.5 wins.
So,
and I don't have them even close to that. I have them at 33.
Our listeners strongly also agree, not butter. My win picks on this one, though, for the Nets, I'm a little confused. I went strong, and it looks like I took the over because I picked up at 38 wins. And I don't. You
love those guys, though.
I love them. I'm so biased. And here's the thing, our listeners, the Patreon supporters, an even split, 50-50. What do we do with that? We don't have a tiebreaker. An even split.
Are we the tiebreaker? Nope, that doesn't work either.
I've gone 3 for 3 on overs, which is totally stupid.
Does anyone in the chat want to weigh in and break this tie who didn't already participate? That seems unlikely.
So you've got the under. I've got the over.
Help me suss out the worst favorite for any award this year. I think has to be the favorite for most improved player, which is Mikal Bridges.
Is he?
He is the favorite, and he closed the year scoring like 27 points a game.
Yeah, I know.
How is he supposed to improve on that?
It's always a year late, and he's never made an All-Star. It has to be a first-time All-Star. Why? It's gonna be Desmond Bain can get it because he's gonna win. He could have won it 2 years ago. Jamal Murray might that'd be dumb for him to get it because he's gonna be a first-time All-Star. I don't know. It's all messed up. I guess I'm sticking with it, but I feel weird taking that one. I guess we're going with a tie. I'm going over, you're going under, and we have a tie. That's going to be unintelligible. Could not figure out what the third person picked.
The experiment has failed.
The Charlotte Hornets continue to make headlines and kind of for the wrong reasons. They get back LaMelo Ball, and so I guess it could be depending on how you want to judge that. Like when you talk about their offseason, but they didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, they waived Kai Jones, who might have been having a mental break. They got they let Kelly Oubre walk. They didn't. I mean, they brought back Miles Bridges, and Miles Bridges might be on his way back out of the league again. So this is a clear parquet, right? I guess they drafted Brandon Miller.
I have stances on the Hornets. Yeah. And I had a really, until the Miles Bridges yeeted himself back into the sun. Yeah. I wanted to take like Hornets to win this division. Now I feel like I have to temper that, but I do think just having LaMelo Ball and adding a guy like Brandon Miller and just being healthier, they'll be butter.
Yeah. So this is where this is where the format breaks down, honestly, because like I think this team is going to be better than they were last year. But like if I'm just looking at the straight up talent on the roster, I'm like, so maybe this is the flaw or the fault in the exercise. I feel like saying Parkay, but wins wise,
okay, getting rid of Cody and letting Mark Williams have all the minutes at center, I think is going to be huge.
Yeah,
Mason, his numbers,
Mason Plumlee.
Yeah. Excuse me.
There's no, but you don't need to apologize for ever confusing Cody Zeller and Mason Plumlee.
I know. As soon as you got rid of Mason Plumlee, like I feel like Mark Williams is such a huge upgrade and is going to be such a presence, and his defensive numbers were so crazy, and he really looks to me like a breakout talent. I feel like the opportunity for like having Gordon Hayward as like your best bench guy, that's pretty awesome. Like having 7 real NBA players is pretty awesome. I really think LaMelo Ball is a game-changing player, and he just kept stepping on like fans' feet last year, like over and over again. Like I don't think it was like he had a bad ankle, like a gimpy ankle. If you saw those injuries, he kept having freak injuries happen, like 3 of them. I just don't see it happening. The number is, to me, this is the one. This division makes me feel like I'm crazy. And maybe it's because I watch so much Hawks, but I just don't understand where everyone's head is at with this. The number is 30.5. 30. Didn't the Hornets win 43 games the year before this or something?
Yeah, but Miles Bridges was on that team and it was awesome.
That is true, and I was by the way excited.
John, the number we're using, the number we asked our patrons was for 31.5. So slightly bumped up. By the way, the patrons thought no, the team did not get butter. They have selected.
They took the over.
They have actually taken the under. They are down. So I also
the easiest over for me.
So even to 31.5, you feel good. I have them at 34 wins, so I'm taking the over. You're taking the over. Listeners,
I have them, and I probably should adjust this since Miles Bridges is now probably going to be kicked out of the league. Thankfully, I have them at 41 wins. I think the Hornets will contend for the division.
That's amazing. More Steve Clifford love, I assume, from you.
Look, I made a bet last year against a bunch of people who I don't think even ever paid me that the Hornets would miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
As a result, I watched a ton of Hornets, and I should have lost that bet. I got lucky. LaMelo Ball was hurt. I also think, another year Steve Clifford is a good thing. Like it's not going to transform them, but I do think it'll be,
I think Steve Clifford is tired like you and me going into a auction salary cap draft. He's like, I'm going to put this practice on auto draft. I gotta,
but he's not James Borrego.
All right. Next up, Chicago Bulls. Signed Javon Carter. They added, is that about it? Oh, yes. Torrey Craig. I like Torrey Craig. Torrey Craig for the minimum.
I like Torrey Craig also.
Torrey Craig was a good signing. Javon Carter a signing. They didn't really lose anyone of note, I don't think. They of course found out Lonzo Ball's basically not going to play. I do think this team got, as we say, slightly butter. And we like to say marginally butter. So yeah, you and me were both saying slight butter. The listeners, they say astoundingly no. 91% no, not better. Am I missing something? They didn't lose any players, right?
Correct.
Derek Jones Jr., who was not playing for them, joined the Mavericks. All right, so we have a disagreement.
People are astounded by the sameness of this squad.
Yeah, sameness.
The number is 37.5,
which is
I took the over. I think they'll win 42 games. They did very poorly in close games last year.
Yeah,
which is kind of surprising with DeMar DeRozan hanging around in the a purportedly clutch player, but they have some really good players.
So
they're I think 42. Should the Bulls be blowing this up and not doing this and winning 40 something games low 40s every year? Probably, but I'm not going to punish them for trying to win games, and I don't think we can pretend that they are awful when they're just really average. They're the
Yeah,
Bulls.
They're totally average. I put them at 39 wins, which makes it an over. Our listeners slightly 52% of them picked the over. So that's a unanimous over for Chicago Bulls at 37 and a half.
Is that our first unanimous one?
No, we were unanimous over on the Celtics. By the way, we have done 5 teams. Need to pick up the pace. Also, I'm over on every single one. Next up, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers, who I think probably have passed the Sixers in the Eastern Conference hierarchy. They did do some stuff this offseason. Finally, somebody who made a little bit of a splash. They brought in Max Strus to help out. They also brought in Georges Niang, and they lost Robin Lopez, right? Chetty Osman. And to me, that feels like an upgrade, right? That's an easy. They did some things to get players who could shoot.
I think Chetty Osman is the same as those players.
I strongly disagree.
He just played for teams that weren't in the finals. I kind of like Chetty Osman. I don't know why. I've always thought he's pretty good.
I just think getting Max Strus and Georges Niang are going to make some shots for him. Although Max Strus technically had a horrible regular season last year, but he should get some great looks. I think they're going to be good. I'm not like overwhelmingly like this team transformed themselves, but like they made some moves around the edges, and I think that gives them that little pat of butter. So I feel good about butter.
I'll say Parkay.
Okay.
I don't think they made any fungible progress in the offseason. I also think like kind of some ticking time bomb nature to this team. I don't think the team maybe will when they
trade Donovan Mitchell for the Damian Lillard trade package,
something like that. The number is 50.5.
That's
I went under at 48. I think the Cavs will be fine. I don't think they'll have a crazy win streak to start the year, and I don't think they're catching anybody by surprise. I think they'll be good, excellent on defense again. I don't know. It sounds like I'm saying negative things about the Cavs. I think the Cavs are going to be pretty awesome. I think it won't be as good as last year, and it'll be like a 48 win team.
So John, I have the Cavs as my 3 seed in the regular season. So hear that, Cavs fans. I'm all for your team. 3 seed. With 49 wins. So that's an under. So yeah, give me the under. Our listeners are tied. This is a disaster with the even number of people of reporting. We honestly, good voter turnout, totally tied once again. So also good job, Vegas, setting that mark. They will profit off the VIG.
You're hugging the lines here, Keith. I want some statements. I need to see some statements.
I feel like I was way higher on I was 2.5 games over on the Hawks, right? Maybe I am. So here's what I did do then. I did do my win totals first before I sent out the forum where I saw most of the latest lines. By the way, my win totals were way too high this year. The whole league, you got to add up to 1230. I was like 40 wins over. And so I've been shaving wins off. Haven't hit those teams yet though.
Trust the process.
Next up alphabetically, we have the Indiana. No, do we? No, we have the Detroit Pistons, who got Joe Harris. They did draft Asar Thompson, and I don't like to weigh heavily draft picks, but I think that guy's going to be good.
Thompson twins look choice.
Yeah, they did not lose anyone who matters. I mean, Corey Joseph wasn't playing much for them. So I don't know. This is just all right, the young squad. I will allow the internal improvements to sway me here. Like Jalen Duren should be better. Cade Cunningham should be better. Jaden Ivey should be better. I do like Asar Thompson. And then they didn't lose anybody that I care about. Also, they added Monty Williams. That should be a boost. So because of those things, this team
paid Monty Williams more than players.
They paid Monty Williams more than Taylor Jenkins has made in his career.
Is he the highest paid coach ever?
Probably. Did Phil Jackson make 15 a year once or something? But anyways, this team is bad, but butter. I
concur. I'll say butter as well.
Everyone says, by the way, and listeners all say butter. What's the number?
27.5.
We're actually going with 28.5. Sorry about Nessie.
Okay.
That's what
I'm reading the link you sent me.
It must have updated. It honestly could have updated in the last 2 days. Okay. The Pistons said 28.5, and that was the slightest of overs for our listeners. What do you say, John, to a 28.5?
I have a slight over as well. I just feel like if all these players get better in a full season of Cade Cunningham, they can, I have them at like 28 or 29 wins. Like, I think they can flirt with 30 plus wins. I don't think they're going to be good, but I think they could be frisky. I think they could be kind of like the Magic were last year, where they were competitive but bad.
What do you think about Monty Williams bringing Jaden Ivey off the bench?
Sure.
Slightly controversial.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It looks like we're all unanimous over. I mean, that's a low number, but this team, won 17 games or something last year?
They tanked hard and weren't really rewarded for it, so that must have made you smile. Although I think Thompson's good, but they didn't get what they wanted. A lot of this is riding on Cade Cunningham. If his injury is worse than a thought or a lingering thing, and if he's unable to take some kind of a mini leap, this could really blow it. Like, this is the unanimous over I feel worst about.
Well, yeah. Anytime you're taking a one of the worst teams in the league,
yeah, because that number is not the lowest we're going to see today.
All right, the Indiana Pacers are next up. They traded away Chris Duarte. James Johnson finally is out of the league. But anyways, the Pacers brought in Bruce Brown and Obi Toppin. That's basically it. But I would still say that makes them better. Our listeners agreed strongly.
We're Bruce Brown fans around these parts, so we have to say butter.
Also, John, maybe Buddy Hield is going to be traded away. That has to make you feel like they got butter right there. Addition by subtraction.
If that happens, I'm all aboard.
I think this is going to be basically a 500 team. I picked him at 41 wins. How many wins do you think the Pacers are going to have this year?
Vegas says, unless I'm wrong,
unless it changed again.
38.5.
Yeah, 38.5 is what we have. Yep.
I have them the slightest of unders. They were a 500 team when Halliburton did play.
Yeah.
I hate to reuse this as I said it recently already, but I don't think the Pacers are catching anybody by surprise anymore.
Correct.
Like, everybody knows the Pacers are going to play at a tremendous pace, as it were. I think people know, Tyrese Halliburton is a all-star already. People know about him. And I just don't really, as much as I like Bruce Brown, I don't really like this team and its players. I think it's a odd fit, and I think there's too many negative players that I wouldn't really want on my team. Maybe that'll change once Buddy Hield is gone. But I don't think Bruce Brown is enough for me to kick the Pacers into like the next echelon that the Pacers would be in would be like, a clear playoff team. I think they are stuck in the lower play-in area. And I think, if Halliburton makes the leap everyone says he will, I'm not really an international leap person, then maybe they become like a 41-42 win team. But I'm fine with them being, like I said, when they had Halliburton, they were essentially a 500 team. And I'm not going to bet on him to play 82 games. So let's do 38.
All right.
That's an under for me.
Our listeners feel comfortable with the over. 74% taking the over. So 2/3 over on Pacers.
Also, check this out.
Yeah.
That number, 38.5. And I saw the numbers as I was making my picks.
Yeah.
So I can't play dumb. That number freaks me out.
Okay.
Them putting the Pacers at 38.5 when I feel like everyone's going to be betting over and is excited about them and all that number freaks me out and made me want to go low.
Well,
it made me want to zag.
I would say there's a bunch of teams: Pacers, Nets, Bulls, Raptors, spoiler, Magic, spoiler, Hornets, spoiler, that could win between like up to like 42, 43 wins. And then there's a floor of like 20 where like it just like they just give up. And like also Rick Carlisle, does he still have a fastball? He has not won a playoff series in like 12 years. Which is
I'm not a Rick Carlisle.
I think that's the longest streak ever for anybody in the NBA.
Supporter.
Years without winning a playoff series, because normally you don't get 12 years if you haven't won a playoff series. Miami Heat. This one looks easy according to our listener results. Did they get better? Lost Gabe Vincent, lost Max Strus. They didn't add anyone of note. They did add my favorite, Josh Richardson. Our listeners say 97%, the strongest response yet. Parkay, not butter. I agree. The Heat are not butter. John, do you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, they obviously overplayed their hand.
Right. And so we move on to their win total, which we had our listeners say 45.5. I picked the Heat to win 45. So I guess I'll stick with it and go with an under here. What do you think?
Okay. So this, like I said, this goes into my Hornets prognostication. I think the Heat don't care about the regular season. Their team got subtly worse, although I think the Heat could still do something during the regular season. You know, maybe that's where Donovan Mitchell ends up. You know, they've done crazy things like this before. Maybe that's where Harden ends up.
Yes.
And then that would kind of blow this into a billion pieces. But even then, I don't think the Heat care about the regular season and would be fine walking into the play-in and doing their thing. So I've got them at 41 and an under.
I have the Heat as the 5 seed, avoiding the play-in with just 45 wins. So I think, so this is one of the things we'll talk about in the Western Conference. Like it kind of made headlines that like the Western Conference.
The line.
Well, the Western Conference projections had the Grizzlies to win 48 games, which like if you ask a Grizzlies fan, you'd be like, oh, that feels low, but that seems fair. But no one else gets mad about that. But then it turned out that was the 1 seed. And then everyone's like, what? The 1 seed? I think the wins might be low everywhere. But anyways, so you're going, wait, you said under, right?
I'm under. And significantly under. I think 45.5 is a lot of wins for a team that I think doesn't give a damn about winning in the regular season.
I'm under. The listeners were 62% say under. Now the Milwaukee Bucks, our listeners strongly feel they got butter. The Damian Lillard trade, headline grabbing. Yeah, we can move on. So they got butter, but their win total is interesting.
Yeah.
The standard I sent our listeners to ask or to assess was 54.5 wins, tied with the Celtics for the most wins in the East projected. I have them as a slight under, though. I'm going to cite depth concerns. And
that's what everyone seems to be doing.
And like a zigzag, because like last year they won a ton, and the year before they didn't, and the year before that they won a ton. So I'm going with the tried and true zigzag method. This is a going back down under the total.
I kind of get it, but I think firing Budenholzer has meaning here, where it puts a lot on Giannis Antetokounmpo to prove that was the right move. And I think that means, I mean, he seems extremely motivated. I think Damian Lillard will be extremely motivated. Middleton will be back. I know this is more about the Lillard move was more about playoff success than anything else, but I do think in this case it will translate I also, I think moving away from a guy like Budenholzer has such a rigorous, rigid style. I think this allows Antetokounmpo to be a different kind of player, especially on the defensive end. I think we might see him play against other teams' best players for a change, which I think translates to more winning basketball. I think this is the winningest team in the NBA this year. I would be really surprised if the depth concerns, barring an injury to Giannis Antetokounmpo, played anything out. And honestly, if Giannis gets hurt, now they have Dame Lillard. That's the guy who wins a lot of games too. So I really think this is just one of those things where I hate to sound like a broken record, but the Bucks and the Nuggets are awesome. The Celtics are awesome. Somebody's going to win a lot of games. It might as well be the Bucks.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I guess I'll just stick with my slide of under. No Grayson Allen. Good vibes all around. Our listeners, by the way, 56% say under. So we're 2/3 under on that, thanks to the listeners, for the Patreon supporters. Before we wrap this up, we got a few more teams left, and then a brief state of the show for our par fadeaway. We'll take a quick break. All right, we're back doing our butter parquet / over-unders. Is it confusing? Yes, it is. But we have a few more teams left in the Eastern Conference to go through. And next up is the New York Knicks, who, what are we going to say about their offseason, John? They didn't do a whole lot. I mean, I guess the Dante DiVincenzo,
That's
something. That's meaningful.
Yeah.
I think that paired with like no major losses, I guess that's going to give me that gives me a butter, right? Oh, I'm sorry. There's one major loss. I just misspoke. I realized the heart and soul and maybe the best bench guard underused in the NBA last year, Derrick Rose, is no longer on the team.
I'm trying to let you cook here, and you were just going to
my mistake.
Right by it.
Can Dante DiVincenzo replace the 60 DNPs that Derrick Rose had last year? No, I think losing Obi Toppin and Derrick Rose, Dante DiVincenzo makes up for that. I think
Obi and Tibbs could no longer coexist.
Yeah.
That was Godzilla versus Kong, baby. Let them fight. I mean, so the number is, unless I'm mistaken, 45.5. Does that jibe with what you've got going on?
That does. I have 45.5 wins. I
think they're butter, and I'm going to take the over. If they're for every Spoelstra who doesn't care about the regular season, there is a Tibbs who does care about the regular season and will play his guys. And I think the Knicks probably win 47, maybe even more games. Knicks are quite good.
Knicks could, I mean, much like the Heat could mess this up by acquiring talent. The Knicks, this could be the year the Knicks acquire talent. Like the Knicks could maybe finally make a trade.
Knicks are like one shooting.
They've been so patient.
From being amazing.
They've been so patient for them not having made a trade in several years. I mean, they did an amazing job last year getting Jalen Brunson. We basically all undersold how big that acquisition was at the time. And yeah, I still feel like I got him. I put him at 44 wins. So I'm taking the under.
You are hugging the line.
I don't mean to. I'm a simple man. I have basic takes, and it turns out they're all exactly what the over-unders ended up being.
Plant a flag, coward.
So I'm under. You're an over. The Patreon supporters have taken the over in a very narrow win for the over. 53% taking the over. The Orlando Magic, who I'm going to say, for me, John, the Magic had one of the most disappointing off seasons of anybody. Like they had so much. I feel like they had a lot of promise.
Is it just Jonathan Isaac coming back?
It's like you had Ben Caro and Franz Wagner, and you're like, that front line is so good. And it's so young and promising.
Add some shooters. Fools.
And just add some stuff to this.
Yeah.
And like you have Wendell Carter Jr. is a good player. Marco Fultz does stuff, but like just add some shooting, add some players. You had cap space. You could have done stuff. And unless I am mistaken, they didn't do anything.
No, Parkay.
They did nothing. They drafted. They had two.
To rest on your laurels when your laurels are a bunch of young players who need something, because this team doesn't play well together. Their offense is stultifying.
That's a great word for it. Agreed.
Like people talk about this being a league pass team, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
It's one
unwatchable.
Of those, also, jersey's terrible. It's one of those things where you go into the offseason and we're all doing our little podcaster brain stuff and our real GM stuff. And we're like, oh, they got cap space and 2 lottery picks. What are we going to do? And it's like, draft a non-shooter and then reach on a shooter. Again, I don't know how Anthony Black's going to be. I don't know how Jeff Howard's going to be. Jet Howard, excuse me. I don't know if those guys are going to be any good, but like what they did with the rest of the roster, it's like bring in Joe Ingles. Okay. Like maybe he might help tie the room together. No, I think this team did not improve. The internal improvement from Banchero, maybe that carries it. Maybe Jalen Suggs knows how to play.
I don't do international bumps. I don't care that he looked great at the 5 internationally.
Yeah.
I still remember him being unable to play next to Franz Wagner.
I think Banchero's amazing, but I do not think this roster added talent. So for me, that's a parquet. And our listeners 68% disagreed with me.
I think we're going to be on an island here.
So,
but
so
I bet you took a slight. I bet you either have 36 or 37 wins.
I took
Is that
30.
What we're dealing with.
Honestly, I still have too many wins, and I think I'm going to take it from the Magic. I have them at 34, and I think I have to duck that down. So I have 34 wins for the Magic.
So you're going to go less wins?
So, and by the way, the number I saw was 36 and a half.
I know you're not trying to do it. I think you're planting a flag here.
I planted my flag
this
on.
This is a take.
I think the Orlando Magic are. I was way. Listen.
I didn't have the balls. I have them at 36. I'm slightest of under, but with just enough capitulation to where I can claim that I almost had the over. I was playing your way, and you're playing mine.
I am not convinced the Magic are better than the Hawks or the Pacers or the Nets or the Bulls or the Raptors or the Hornets, and because of that, I can't be like 37 wins. Sure. No, I'm planting my flag as someone who is very bad at Eastern Conference over-unders. I am planting my flag on the under Orlando Magic 36 and a half
you
wins.
did what I wanted to do, and I didn't have the balls.
Wait, so wait, are you
too many sexy players? I'm under. But
you're under. Our listeners,
I'm riding the line though.
Our listeners are 2/3 over. So
okay.
What do we do?
I'm glad this one's not.
The 76ers angered James Harden. And
didn't show up today.
What's he gonna do? Shams carrying water with he's been the utmost professional by refusing to play scrimmages or preseason games. How is that the utmost professional?
He's fat again. It's so glorious.
So did they get better? No, man, they lost some players and they haven't added anyone. I mean, they added Kelly Oubre. We all agree, I believe, no, they did not get better. Their over-under, though, I think is intriguing. 49 and a half wins. I have a hard time. I mean, hard time is the wrong word. I could see them winning 50, but I'm picking an under. I don't think they win 50 games this year. What do you think?
Parkay, obviously. No matter what you think of Nick Nurse and his guitar. But the Sixers are the Grizzlies of the East. They don't need James Harden to win 49, 50 games. We have seen this movie before. Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, DeAnthony Melton, that can win plenty of games right there.
Also, John,
when Ben Simmons disappeared,
they
won a ton of games when everyone was like, what are they going to do? You know,
they're starting. So here's my preseason takes on the Sixers. They're starting Patrick Beverley over DeAnthony Melton. Disgusting.
Yeah, well, we'll see how long that lasts.
Maybe there is a Nick Nurse boost. Maybe he'll unlock Tobias. I like Tobias. I feel he's unfairly maligned a lot. So like this team could easily be.
This is a regular season juggernaut team.
That could be true
to me. So I'm over.
Okay.
Just on the strength of them constantly dominating regular seasons, and the team and the roster is still really good. If James Harden does nothing. And if he does play, they're incredible.
I was a huge believer in this team regular season last year because I went back and listened to our show and I nailed it. I was like, this team's going to be great. They're going to be near the top of the conference. They're going to crush their over-under and they're going to flame out horribly in the playoffs. And they did. It was not a creative take by me.
This is a regular season game we're playing.
Yep.
And this is the Grizzlies of the East, which pains me to say.
Yeah. 54 wins for them last year in the regular season. But I guess I'll stick with my thought process and go under. John, you're taking the over. The Patreon supporters
50 wins, probably
have taken strongly. Oh wait, I'm looking at the wrong one. No, strongly still taking the under. They think it's falling apart there for the Sixers. And
why?
Probably because
they've done this before.
They're going to trade Embiid to the Knicks, John, and they think they're going to bottom out. No, I don't know. Because they're angering Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid, and they have Tobias Harris, DeAnthony Melton on expiring contracts, and it's just a mess over there. Probably, I think the way it's unsettled is why everyone is like that. All right, we got a couple of more teams. The Toronto Raptors.
Okay, I'm planting a flag.
They lost Fred VanVleet. They brought in the bad McDaniels brother, the less good McDaniels brother. This is a thunderous parquet. From our patient supporters. I agree. This team did not get butter. I do not know what to do with their win total though. I am thoroughly lost.
Half, right?
I just shake my head. I don't know what to do. What do you think? Yeah, 36.5.
I have I'm a big time under. I have them at 28 wins. I think Ujiri might finally. They have their best players are on expiring contracts. I know they've let Van Vliet walk. I know they've made a history, but do they keep letting them walk without getting anything? I think Ujiri blows it up.
So
I also think even if he doesn't blow it up, the negativity surrounding last year is palpable to me.
Yeah.
And I especially didn't like the way the Raptors looked by year's end as far as like effort and their identity. So I think someone's going to be significantly worse, and either by design or maybe not by design, it will be the Raptors this year.
So,
but I don't blame you if you think they win 38 games. I know it's a bizarre.
I agree.
This is the weirdest team in the league.
I agree with everything you said, but I got a few things fighting that.
Is it the draft pick stuff?
One's the draft pick stuff, and this thought process sounds so sound, and it's led me astray. I think every single time I've applied it.
Right.
They owe a top 6 protected pick.
Yeah.
To the Spurs. So like tanking seems like not a thing they're going to do unless they're going to totally bottom out, which that feels like hard to do. Also, but I have planted my flag on this, John. They're cutting loose that parachute, that dead weight of Nick Nurse, who they hated. This is just my conjecture. I have no source reporting. I might have had some people tell me maybe I was close, but I think it's a boost. They got Darko Rajakovic from the Grizzlies. He's going to come in, breath of fresh air. They're going to have more fun, more joy. Also, they're adding FIBA World Cup MVP Dennis Schroeder to take the reins. So they have enough talent.
Schroeder's ownership of the Grizzlies
make
that a big thing, but Dennis Schroeder is basically Oscar Robertson to me. So
he ruined one of that watch party. We had a watch party for that Shannon Sharp regular pedestrians Lakers game. Ruined it. Everything was downhill after that.
That was basically a fast break breakfast gathering.
That was the farewell party.
That was our juggalo.
That was actually that was the last time anyone saw each other. Was that Dennis Schroeder killed Fast Break Breakfast. But because of that, this team feels mediocre. And I know like no teams normally win 36 because once you get to 36, you kind of like give up. But like I wrote them down for 37 and I'm hugging that line once again. And I feel like an idiot. And I don't. Yeah, they're a mystery. They're a weird team. Like Siakam won't.
If you could have selected half games in your win totals, would you have selected half games?
Yeah, I would have just nailed it. 36.5. Our listeners go slightest of overs.
I'm probably wrong just to the whole draft pick thing, but I just feel like he has to get something for Siakam and OG.
They traded first round picks for no reason to bring in Jakob Poeltl last year just to scrape out 38 wins. I don't know. I'm audibling. I'm docking them wins. I'm saying under. I can't ride the line on them. I'm going under on the Raptors. You're going under on the Raptors. Our listeners are slightly over. Yeah. Slightly over. All right. Our final team is Tyus Jones's Washington Wizards.
I think we're going to disagree here.
You're going to say they're butter?
Huh?
You're going to say that they're butter?
No, but I think you're going to.
That would have been the podcaster take, man.
No, they're not butter.
They got rid of Bradley Beal. They got rid of Kristaps Porzingis. They kept franchise cornerstone Kyle Kuzma.
Kuzma daddy.
They, I think, clearly are worse, but they needed to get worse. Good job.
Sure.
So they're parquet, not butter. Their wins though.
Yeah, this is where I think you're going to take an over.
Yeah.
Tyus sauce. I think you're going to be on an over. 24.5 is the
I correctly did this here. I'm a toot my own horn. I correctly did this last year with the Pacers. I correctly did this last year with the Jazz. They have too much competent mid-level NBA talent to be atrocious. Like that's at least that's my take. Like, are they going to not play Tyus Jones 30 minutes a game?
I think they will, but I think Kuzma and some of the competent talent will be gone.
That's possible.
That is possible.
I think this is going to be the worst team by, maybe not by roster, but by win total. I think this will be the worst team in the NBA. And I think they're going to be like the 16 win team.
So here's the thing.
The nightmare team.
I think you're right. This team probably has the worst record in the whole NBA. Here's my like little twist on that though.
Mm-hmm.
I think every other team, I think they're going to be by themselves in this pursuit where they don't have to lose 65 games. I think they're going to be like 10 and 17. And you're like, wow, they're first place on Tickathon already. I don't think they have to go to the lows of 17 wins. So I have them at 26. And
so you think the worst team in the league is going to have 26 wins?
Yeah.
No,
I don't know. Well, this is a preview to the Western Conference. I don't know what to do with the Spurs, Trailblazers, and Rockets. Yeah, I don't like going.
That's an interesting season for sure. I hope that happens.
I think
that's the
Adam Silver is going to send Joe Dumar's secret report on how it's good for player health to win 25 games. Like losing 17 or only winning 17 games is bad for player health. Yeah, I'm middling the whole league. Everyone's going towards the center. Yeah, I'm gonna take over. I'm gonna take over on 24 and a half wins. Our listeners do too. They believe in Tyus Jones. They believe in Denny Avdia, right? Corey Kispert looked pretty good last year. Daniel Gafford's gotten that cardio up. He can play now 24 minutes a game without passing out from lightheadedness.
Starting center Daniel Gafford.
So
get like 4 fouls in 3 minutes, faint, be carried out, be diagnosed with pre-diabetes, be buried at halftime.
All right. So here's what we did. I'm trying to read all my notes. Recapping our over-unders. We were 2/3 over on the Hawks. We were unanimous over on the Celtics. We were tied because we unfortunately tied on the Nets over-under. We were 2/3 over on the Hornets. We were unanimous over on the Bulls, which feels wild. We were unanimous under on the Cavs. We were unanimous over on the Pistons. We were 2/3 over on the Pacers, unanimous under on the Heat. You see that? Miami, Pat Riley, bulletin board material, unanimous under on the Heat. And 2/3 under on the Bucks, unanimous 2/3 over on a team I wrote down as Kentucky, KY. I'm assuming that was Knicks. I think I messed that up there. 2/3 under on the Magic, 2/3 under on the Sixers, 2/3 under on the Raptors, 2/3 over on the Wizards. So good luck, everyone. If you use that for actual money purposes, do so responsibly. Anyways, par fadeaway, John. I just would say to wrap this up, my par fadeaway is just this 10th season of Fast Break Breakfast. I will say it is somewhat, as a state of the show, somewhat a mystery. Our plans are, to be clear with all of the listeners, our plans are, you and me, John, we're going to do a weekly show as normal, as our schedules allow. I don't totally know if there will be extra bonus episodes in the week. A lot of it's going to be balancing everybody's work schedule, my work schedule. I'll have an announcement about my Grits and Grinds show very, very soon. That show is continuing. We might look to add new hosts, new contributors, new opportunities. Basically, John just nodding along with all of this.
Look, I love doing the show. I love the community. I'll always be a part of the community. For those who aren't involved in our Slack and our Patreon stuff and our playbacks, I think it's really fun. It gives me a place to talk with smart and funny people about basketball. The show is not affiliated with any business entities right now. So things have changed and, we're not doing the Grind City thing anymore. So,
right.
And Keith has things he got going on with his other podcast. So things have to take precedence. And Chuck, for instance, Chuck has moved on, is pursuing another career. It isn't on the show anymore. So it's just kind of a state of flux. And
yeah, I would say to add on to that, John, that we started this with Chuck. He was on the show for the first 8.5 years. He moved on. I would say, can we say to pursue his real passion, which is traveling around the globe, organizing pickup sex orgies, right?
Look, Chuck has ended the podcast the same way it started, by constantly texting me about the Miami Heat. And that's mostly what we talk about yet again. Which is a beautiful full circle thing. Also, he's doing very well in life and is very happy. And to quote my Meemaw, he will bury us all.
Yeah. And so like you said, so like Grind City Media moved on from us. So that was a loss of a lot of income. By the way, the New York Times killed the Daily Ding over at The Athletic.
Yeah.
So The Athletic killed the other show I was doing. And so it's weird where we did this show, passion project, a love thing we love doing. And then it became like a job, which has responsibilities and like, all right, I've set aside all this time, and then turning it back from job to like, oh, do you want this to be your passion project you've done for 10 years? It's a lot harder with kids aging, with now we have income needs basically. And so all that to say, we're still doing one a week. If you want to support the show, please patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. Please subscribe to YouTube. Get involved with those playback watch parties. We're still doing playback watch parties, and nothing immediately is changing other than there might be fewer episodes, which you've probably noticed over the past month. But again, thanks as always to everybody for supporting the program. And with that, John, I think we can just say thanks for listening. You guys are the best. And remember, breakfast is the most important thing.
I will